Hey everyone, welcome to episode 182 of Shunya One. Here we are once again with a very interesting episode. I'm talking to Sunit Gajbhiye, who's the co-founder and chief business officer, one of four founders of a company called Financepeer. And while it sounds like just another fintech company, I think what they have built and what they're doing is very interesting. They're a specialized fintech in the space of education, and that means they actually help you pay for your education, in all sorts of stages of life in India. And I think hearing Sunit talk about the journey and talk about, of course, the opportunity that they have in solving a really big problem was very inspiring. So let's take a break, come back, and continue the conversation.
Hello. It's been another great week here on the IVM Podcasts Network. On This Round is on me, Gauri explores the power of networking with Abha Bakaya, founder and CEO of Ladies Who Lead. On Nankari, Sadaf and Archit go on a virtual food walk with Anubhav Sapra, founder of Delhi Food Walks. On Misconduct, Ragvi and Nisha tell us about the fascinating life story of China's only female empress, Wu Zetian. On The Longest Constitution, Priya analyzes the First Amendment to the Indian Constitution. And on Marathi Khidkitun, the Deshmukhs explore museums all around the world. We've got some exciting news for you. IVM Podcasts has just launched its merch, and our first line is out now. Head to the IVM Podcasts website and click on the shop tab to check out our first collection of t-shirts. Do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platforms you're listening on. And you can also check us out on YouTube. We're also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you respond to our shows and advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it in. It helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week. SBI Life Insurance, Apne Liye, Apno Ke Liye. Jupiter, a digital banking app. Capgemini, get the future you want. Intel vPro, built for business. And Intel, future banao wonderful with Intel-powered laptops.
Hi Sunit, welcome to Shunya One. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. And I think the pleasure is mine. Thanks for hosting me.
No, absolutely wonderful. Thanks for coming here and telling us the story of Financepeer, and of course, how it came to be. Before we get into the product itself, and I know it's quite innovative. You guys are obviously a fintech with a little difference from probably what most people have heard about fintech. Uh, but if you could tell us a little backstory as to how you and your co-founders all actually thought of solving for this, and maybe even a personal journey as to how you got into this space.
Yes, for sure. Uh, so I am an engineer by heart. I think that's how most of us in this
Right.
space would be in the country, correct? So yes, after my engineering, I went on to again pursue and do my MBA. Worked for almost a decade, and then the four of us. So there are four founders. Uh, we are tied up friends and through our courses, so that's how we know each other. And then we got together. We started thinking, of course I'll delve deep into why we came
Right.
across this, and then we established a company which worked in the P2P lending space. So that is where we started. That was way back in 2018. And in 2019, RBI came with certain regulations around how peer-to-peer lending is to happen. That
Correct.
is where we took a pivot in 2019, where we understood that a problem which I will touch upon in education is extremely grave, is extremely big, and it touches our heart, and that is where we started. Having Going back to what the problem was, uh, when we were doing mere peer-to-peer lending, which is about connecting uh, lenders and borrowers in the ecosystem in the market, uh, we bumped into our first school. It
Hmm.
is called Masuri International School. It's one of the top day boarding girls' school in our country and in Asia. When we started talking to them, we realized that the fees and the quality of education in
Hmm.
India both are increasing. So the quality of education for all the kids is increasing. That's great. Tier one, tier two, all the cities. But at the same time, the cost is increasing. Uh, and is there something that we can do about it? Uh,
Mm.
so in a country at that particular point in time, in 2018 and 19, we had zero cost loan options for purchasing an iPhone, for taking a bike, for taking a laptop, but there was
Right.
absolutely nothing when it came to education. Uh, and since our country in India is driven by a stigma, no one talks about it. I have a daughter and I have to pay fees. I don't talk about it to my friends. If
Mm.
I'm facing a crunch, I may talk about it to one or two people to help me out in between. Uh, but if the cost of education is increasing, no one talks about it on a forum because it's something, it's a taboo. You don't talk about such things in our
Right.
society. And we realized that. So with Masuri International, we came up with a very unique solution. How do we uh, get a zero cost EMI option for all the students and parents to pay their fees? Uh, and then what happens? Where does the interest go? How is it? How does it become a profitable model? That is where we work with schools. So in this case, Masuri and many other schools henceforth, they are able to bear the interest as a discount, which then is passed as a benefit to all the
Wow.
students and parents. So it becomes a complete zero cost fee payment option for all the parents. So we started with that, and from there, in back in 2019 to till date today, I think it's been a tremendous growth for us. We have been able to work with more than 10,000 institutes, which include schools, colleges, your coaching classes, preschools, anywhere. If a student or a parent wishes that their child learn anything, we want them to think that Financepeer is here for them to make them get their dreams.
Very nice. I mean, it's amazing that you again, while obviously building a another fintech product, you found this sort of opportunity. But before we go a little deeper there, I want to understand now. Given the fintech space in 2018 was, it was alive and kicking, right? I think the country saw a fintech revolution over the last so many years, and P2P lending, like what you started with itself, was one of those sectors which was quite hot. Uh, what were the, and you mentioned obviously that RBI, set the rules in place so that you had to, pivot. But what were the learnings from that very, initial stage about how the mechanics of doing this, like pivoting to education, would work out? Like what gave you the conviction that this, I mean, apart from the fact that the problem is obviously huge, uh, was there any other hurdle which you knew that you'd have to overcome based on that first part of the journey?
Yes, Aditya, definitely. In fact, I believe every idea, when it is executed successfully, looking back into hindsight, every idea, there's a timing to things. There
Right.
is a timing, and for me, there are a few things which are important. One is the market ready? That's great. Is the infrastructure ready for you to build a business around it? That's great. But the third and most important thing is, do you have the right background and the passion to do it and
Mhm.
take it till the end? And that is, I think, where we came in. So a little bit here about me before this venture itself. In fact, with all the founders, there's one thing in common. We all have very humble middle class background from India, which means the focus for us was always, uh, why don't you do more and how do you do it? Correct. So it was
Right.
always a good, hard working journey. With that, we realized when we entered our IITs and IIMs that education is not cheap. Correct?
Yeah.
Education is not cheap. And at the same time, the good part is that all the top tiers and all the top colleges in the country, they have tie-ups with banks. So in IITs, it is Canara Bank. In IIMs, it is SBI Bank, where you go for an education loan. You take that loan, you take your placement, and then for about 5 to 7 odd years, you repay the loan. Correct?
Right.
We being lucky that this would not even be a mere 0.01% of all the students in the country, which means that all the other institutes, they may not have any banking facility available with them.
Mm.
uh, and more so over, again, repayment of that is a challenge. Correct.
Mm.
So that was our background. At the same time, when we started working, for example, in my case, before having Financepeer or starting Financepeer, I was working into the mobile ecosystem on products and on business clients in banking. With that itself, from the place where I stay, I also used to go and teach in a Zilla Parishad village on
Wow.
weekends. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So
Nice.
what I knew for sure was that life is not that easy for all the students out there, even though they are putting the effort. Uh, Same for all the other founders, they had their own experiences in banking, in society. So we knew for a fact that if there is any way how we can make studying simpler in terms of the pockets on the parents, the dreams of all those children can come true. The dreams of all those students can come true, whatever they wish to learn. Correct. So we still are today highly motivated by that one simple idea, that we want to make every student's dream in India come true, and finance should not be in the way for that. So that on one side was the passion, and which still is there today, which we are working for. Then on the other side, coming to the business aspects, it is important to understand fintech and how it evolved in India. Of course, people may have their opinions on what all can be a part of financial and technology industry space in the market today. So on one side, we had applications which made payments easy. Correct. You had today you can call it Google Pay or so on, but at that time, Razor Pay and the infrastructure for payments and payments banks, that was new, which came in. The other side, the government support was in place, which means the enablement of UPI, the enablement of Aadhaar to ensure that credit can be as an access digitally. So these two things gel well. Infrastructure was in place, the tech was in place, which means for a company like us, and since we have tech background, we come in as a platform and try to ensure that the access of finance to education and while working with banks and NBFC,
Hmm.
NBFCs, it becomes cheaper for the overall ecosystem because of this technology being there, and that is exactly what we did. Uh, so the existing Indian ecosystem with their network on how banking works or retail banking works, on one side, getting that on a platform and making it accessible so that it goes to schools, colleges, and education. So that was a right fit and timing, and with all three areas in place, I think it was just a matter of time. Uh, and once we started spreading, and it was a true value add to the institutes.
Oh, very nice. And you touched upon your own, let's say, education loan journey and how, as part of IIT, obviously there were these facilities already existing. One of the aspects I think of education loans in general is this repayment, right? That I think the banks and everyone who you say gives the loan, they give it on the hope that obviously you will succeed in the education system, you will then get a job, and from that job's income is where you will start repaying this, right? So obviously in the case of IIT, there's already this sort of pre-qualification that you are obviously going to get a good job and get good pay, and hence there is a little sense of security from the bank side. How could you how And probably that's why other institutes never had this sort of access. How could you
Correct.
bring them that security that these loans will be repaid? I think that's was that a large part of the challenge that you had to overcome?
So let me put it this way: for the schools where we work with, for every parent, and I'll take my own example, I may not have the luxury to spend on certain areas, but I will never sacrifice on my daughter's education quality. I will always strive to give her the best I can with the pocket money that I have or with the salary that I have. Having taking the same a step further, let's understand in schools, when a parent is committed for sending his or her child to the school, one important thing that they're thinking about, apart from parents who are shifting in government jobs, one important thing that they know is that they have to be here for 10 to 12 years. Okay? Which means that they don't have to worry about their finances. Parents manage it, they just have to focus on studying. Okay? Uh, which brings me to what did we do over here? We understood as a company and Financepeer that parents don't talk about it. Okay? So how do we reach them? That's one. On the repayment piece, We also, since 2019 was a time, we started where in about December's time, and then 2020 from March, COVID came in. Correct. So that was again a crucial
Yeah, yeah.
element at play. So we knew that we need to protect parents and students. So we also had an insurance in place, which is still there today, which means if something happened to the parents, God forbid, which affected their ability to pay, we have that covered through the insurance, so that take education doesn't take a hit. So that was again a crucial element as to why uh, we were able to understand parents and why it did not affect us when it came to repayments, because we always thought of it in two simple aspects. Education is key. Parents don't default there, and if there are bad times, then insurance, the entire market is ready to support them. So education doesn't stop, and with these two hand in hand, that's how we started. Today, yes, we are growing from there. We are rather far from just where we are with insurance and fee payment. Now we are looking at making fee payment rewarding and not just by insurance, so that parents now understand that this is the best way to pay your fees. So
No,
moving
very.
from a stigma to now making it a habit that this is the best way to pay fees.
No, that's awesome. I mean, there's obviously a lot more questions I want to dig into, but let's take a quick break before that and then come back and ask some more. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We are obviously in conversation with Sunit, who's sharing, details about what finance peer really is, and you shared that you are solving, like you just said, about changing the stigma behind the ability to pay for education, making it a habit, and now you're obviously building on top of that as a platform. So, could you tell us about these components? You shared the banking system components of this before, but as a product, how have you guys innovated on, let's say, what students and rather the parents expect a product to be? Why would they choose you versus, let's say, directly going to a bank for a loan, or something like that?
Okay. So for sure, so at core we are techies. So that's our background. So product and tech was always the key strength. So the way we started, it was a simple uh, product on a financial aspect, that you have fees of say 1 lakh in a year, and here's a company which is able to give that 1 lakh on your behalf to the school, and you just have to pay 10,000 for 10 months to them. That's it. That is how we started.
Right,
With
EMI.
that,
Yeah.
correct. With that, insurance came in. Okay, these are bad times. You're going through tough times, and here's a finance peer. They are helping you so that your child's education is not affected. Uh, Now, tech, as I said, as a platform, was the base. Even today, it's continuously evolving as fintech in the country. So where do we come in now? From just a lending product, moving and making it the best way to pay fees. So now every parent and every school, they can look at FinancePeer as just one simple button on the school or their school ERP page. So today, let's say if my daughter is studying, last year she had a school online. Right? This year, and hopefully the
Yeah.
schools don't shut down, and this year she'll start to go to school from this June. So payment it follows according to me a Poisson distribution curve, which means that the closer I am to the fee payment date, that is when as a parent I'll start to look at what to do about it. It's
Yeah.
not something that, even though I know I have to pay the fees for my daughter every year, but it's not that I'm thinking about it all the time. Okay. So now when I know that I need to pay my fees, the first and the largest influencer for me is the school.
Right.
Is the school. So the school rolls out a circular and tells me that here is where you should go, and here is what you need to do. Either you can give a check, or you can pay via your UPI, or you can pay via net banking, and many other methods that they have. So Financepeer sits right there. It's as simple. Here is the Financepeer button. You click on the button. You can choose to pay directly, or you can choose to pay via EMIs. But these are zero cost EMIs. So why don't you try this? And now it is becoming rewarding to pay it. So
Hmm.
every time a parent pays via Financepeer, they get reward points from us as a company, and the same can be used for getting the cost of complementary learning courses that a parent spends today go down further. For example, I want my daughter to go for a music class. I want her to go for skating. I want her to try something in sports. As a parent, I am anyway spending. Okay? So, can a company like Financepeer come in and reduce that cost for me and make it by making it rewarding? So that's where we are going as a product, and all of that at just a click of a simple button.
No, very nice. I think that's exactly you're looking. You looked at the ecosystem of paying fees and everything around it, and then obviously you're pulling in various players in that ecosystem. What is the you mentioned that you're now in across so many schools. Is it uh, is it that your product only works with affiliated schools? But I'm sure the country has so many, right? So how are you planning to like make sure this is accessible to everyone?
Yes. Yes. So we are just getting started, and I hope our vision is very simple that we want every student in the country to avail such a facility. Right now, the Financepeer affiliated schools have these payment options for zero cost and rewards. For all the other students out there, what we help them with is low cost or low interest EMI options, because we rely on the schools and colleges to make it a business model for us, which is a win-win for everyone in the system. But for the other students, it's still a low interest income or low interest fee payment option that they can still avail. Anyone can go to financepeer.com, they can explore, and they can see what is the amount that they need and how much is it that they need to pay back. But yes, if we are there in Financepeer affiliated schools, it makes it a little more rewarding for them. And it is our continuous effort that our sales team and the entire company, we try to reach more and more institutions. And hence, when I said that we are present in 10,000 institutions today, we want that to be all the private institutions. We want to reach 40,000, then 1 lakh, and then all the 7 to 10 lakh private institutions in the country.
Wow, so obviously a long journey ahead and a rewarding one at that. But tell me something about the fact that you know uh, you mentioned, you touched upon it, that obviously there is a business model. I think fintech is one of those sectors where there are various ways in which you can make money or generate revenue, right? And obviously lending is very well known that if you're in the lending business, obviously there's money to be made. But what have you chosen? Like, how could you talk to us about the various revenue generating aspects of the business, because you're also trying to make it more lucrative for all parties involved. So if
Correct.
you could share
Correct.
something about
For sure. So in the lending business, as a platform, it is about the platform fees that is being charged to the ecosystem. So over here, it's very simple. Those charges are being borne by the schools and colleges. Why will they do it? So let's try to
it.
understand that. Today, there are schools and colleges across tier one, tier two, and so on. Okay. Maybe a school and college, say in Mumbai or a Bangalore for that matter, who have unlimited applicants for them, and they have to choose. Okay,
Yes.
it's not a problem for them, but that those are just zero point 0.5 or 0.2% of the schools in the country. But for all the others, uh, what they do today is that if they have fee payment, all either you can pay all your fees upfront or you can pay it semester wise. Okay? And there are many schools and colleges who offer a certain discount in certain form or certain cashback if they are being paid money upfront. Why is it that they do that? It's very simple. If the schools are realizing more of their money upfront, or the colleges are realizing more of their money upfront, they need to pay salaries to the teachers, for their admin, for the staff. All of that can be planned so that a better quality education and the infrastructure is given back to the students and parents. For schools and colleges, the most important thing is reputation. So for reputation is where all the money goes. Okay. For them to evolve to become an accredited A and then moving towards uh,
Yeah.
becoming the largest university. Okay. So where does Financepeer fit in here? When Financepeer works with them, a school or a college who is giving certain amount of discount, and if Financepeer is charging less than that, depending on the EMI tenure that the school or college chooses, it's a win-win. So, for example, if a parent has to pay 60,000 in 6 months, which means 10,000 a month, and the school may have to bear a discount of about 4 to 5%, which they were any which ways, they were bearing more than that. Then they're happy to share that with Financepeer while they focus on education. We focus on fee payment and ensure everything is smooth for them. So that is the largest of the revenue drivers in play. Of course, with the product and tech coming in, there are a lot many points, but our focus is to first add value to the lives of these parents and students, and then once we start seeing that, I think revenue is just a matter of time, even though the models are in place. So once these parents, which were now paying fees and now evolve and understand that there are a lot many rewards, there are a lot many things to be done, then the ecosystem and the platform opens up, and hence, as a company, the entire business growth and revenue goes up.
No, very nice. And what you mentioned, right, that the schools, so this difference between schools which are popular and have so many applicants, and they have, like colleges, maybe especially, even have, let's say, donations and whatnot you have to do to sort of get into those premier institutes, right? Uh, Whereas and those are few. You said 0.5 to 0.2%. For them, is this solution, like there are still students who maybe have to get, who after trying to get into those institutes probably face the same the challenge of paying fees, because even maybe those fees are actually even higher. So
Okay.
do you see even interest from people who go to such institutes to also provide a facility like yours?
Yes. So those parents, students, and those institutes, they look at this as a facility of payment. Uh, while all the others, it's a need, but over here it's a facility. It's like something like Google Pay, that this is there,
Right.
this is helpful for you. And of course, the Indian stigma, when parents don't want to talk about it. But that is why we are moving from just a fee payment to making fee payment rewarding, because we want the parents and the schools to understand that it is something good that you can adopt, and it is something rewarding, and it is way better than their own traditional mechanism of paying fees. So come out of your stigma, and adopt this is what is our message for them.
Wonderful. Sunit, you've shared obviously so much. I'm sure there's a long roadmap you have of not just building the product, but obviously, expanding to various schools in the whole country. What is the actual vision that you have for the, let's say, next 12 to 18 months? What are you aiming to achieve?
Correct. Correct. As a company, yes, every startup or a company goes through a product market fit, growth, and then scale. Correct. So today, after where we are after doing our Series B, with having the world's best investors backing us, so we are definitely focusing this year on scaling in efficiency, so that every single time we are offering the best experience to all the students, parents, and all our customers. Where we were last year, where we were processing more than 100 million USD fees through us. We are, as I said, through these 10,000 institutes, we are now looking at reaching everywhere, but with the bandwidth that we have, which means that it will take us at least 3 to 5 years to reach across more than 70 to 80% of all the private schools in the country. And it will be a continuous effort to reach there. So, in this 1.5 year, we will be focusing on giving all our existing schools, students, and parents, and the new ones, the best experience that they haven't seen, because we are all used to it now. So we want to make this rewarding experience as cool as possible. as easy to adopt as possible. And here is where our tech platform comes in play. So our focus will be on getting this tech implemented in our schools, colleges, and institutions. And with that, we will be ready to have our financially literacy programs, our cards, our ERP software ready for all these schools and colleges to consume.
Wonderful. Since you're also, as a follow-up, maybe, since you also are sort of in the ed tech space, right, in some ways, because you're obviously facilitating education, uh, how do you see yourselves either working with or in some ways competing with, let's say, other more education-focused platforms out there? Do you see, have you explored that dimension as well?
Correct. So Aditya, where we come in, we definitely not an edtech, but where we come in is you could look at us as maybe an edu fintech company. We are financial services, but working only for education. That's where we are
Right.
because education is such a big problem to solve right now. So when it comes to edtech companies or players who are trying to add value by their content, okay, we are supplementary to them. What we are able to do for them is make it affordable, and that's where we come in, and hence we gel very well with them. For the schools and colleges, it becomes easier for them to adopt to a certain set of quality content that is out there,
Right.
and finance peer comes in to ensure that we make it affordable to them.
So it at one point, if not already, you could also, let's say, someone buying a course on an edtech platform could also pay for that with Financepeer instead of having to.
Yes. So today we are already doing that. So colleges, schools, preschools, and as I said, coaching classes are online edtechs. If you wish to learn anything, or if your child wishes to learn anything, or as a student, or as an employee, if you wish to learn anything, Finance Peer is there.
Oh, wonderful. That's so great to know. Sunit, I mean, closing notes. What's you mentioned obviously a lot of new, interesting, innovative products you're building out uh, over the next so many months as you scale the business. Do you want to what do you want to share with our listeners in case they want to, let's say, reach out to you and talk to you more? Where's the best place to reach you? Or if there's opportunities to collaborate with you, work with Financepeer in any way, if there's any shout out that you want to give to those listening.
Yes, for sure. So it is extremely easy to reach me. Definitely, me and the entire team, we are here to serve. So financepeer.com, you can go there. You can either email on the financepeer.com ID, we'll get back. If you need to find me, you can go on LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram. Although I'm not much active on Insta, but LinkedIn and Twitter is where you can find me. And definitely, I'd be more than happy to get back.
Wonderful, and we'll definitely put those details when we send this podcast out. And of course, for everyone else listening in, wherever you're listening to this show, it's on YouTube or on audio on any of the platforms. Please leave us a rating and a review. Give us a comment. Give us feedback. Tell us how you found this conversation with Sunil. And of course, if you or your friends or your family has people in currently students studying, I'm sure either you're in some or the other phase of that life. I'm sure you'll probably stumble upon Financepeer, and if not, you should seek it out. Definitely some really good stuff you guys are doing, Sunit. Thank you so much for sharing the journey here with us today, and all the best
Thanks a
for
lot.
everything that lies ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.